Welcome back. This is Katie for this morning. It's the second half of our newspaper review. We're talking about by-election season. March definitely is that. And of course, there'll be lots of action on the political front. And that's what we're talking about right here on the show. As we look at what's happening even this week with Machungwa and Kabuchai. Some tweets coming in. Kipsi Marandi saying, watching live from Kabarak University. Sisi youth ndio tunataka tupatiwe hiyo chance. Okay, what chance though? Kipsi Marandi, to do what? Let me know. Again, the hashtag is Katie4 this morning. Let me see who else we have right here. Ichimuntu tuned in saying, now let's talk about leadership and how we can move forward. Tunasikia two stories, Amadeni. Okay, Ichimuntu, that is a pertinent conversation. And actually, you can find that story in your copy of your standard. What mini polls mean for Big Four. As far as that's concerned, you can find that particular story in detail in your copy of your standard as well. In studio, joined by Solomon Kuria, Michelle Alwoch, and Dennis Nyoka as we talk about this. Very quickly, Solomon, yes. Because as we went into the break, you spoke about how each region can have a political party they feel subscribes to their needs and their aspirations. But what we're seeing is, you give an example of the Democrats and the Republicans, and that's largely ideology. The problem with Kenya is it's largely tribe. You'll come then because you're speaking my language, not the issues. We say you're a person, we're subscribing to your party. Do you feel there's an issue in there with that model as well?
What I said is that is the first stage of our political parties. And that is why our constitution provides for registration of coalitions. Mm-hmm. So after people form parties and all that, we have discovered that no one is going to go to the presidency as a one-man show. So people still come back into a group of and form a coalition. That coalition has people from different parts of this nation. And now we don't focus on the ideology of TNA and URP. We're now focusing on the ideology of Jubilee. Are you getting? So next, in 2022, don't be shocked. There will be Jubilee, there will be another party, or a number of parties that are going to come together and maybe form another coalition. And now we are not going to focus on those individual political parties. We are going now to focus on the coalition.
Okay, let me get
we had NASA and Jubilee. We didn't have ODM, ANC, and all that. And that is Kenya.
Dennis,
from small political parties in a coalition.
Dennis, when Solomon talks about that, and even as we see what's playing out, what happens to those nations, those communities that can't, galvanize such numbers? Because I don't see how the Ogiek might be able to get a seat at the table, if that's a dynamic being used. How do you give them an equal playing field?
Ideally, Jeff, Kenyan politics is personality-based. It's not idea-based. In fact, it's not even region-based. The fact that today the leader of Jubilee, the political party leader for Jubilee, comes from central Kenya, I don't think, strongly speaking, that Jubilee can be said to be strongest in central Kenya. And it is representing the ideas of the people in central Kenya. And it means that if there will be a coalition and Jubilee comes to a table, it is representing only the ideas of the people in central Kenya. I think it's wider than that. The laws in Kenya allow political parties to be national. I expected my brother Kuria to confirm that Jubilee is a national party, but he seems to be reluctant to do that confirmation. But ideally, what we should have is political parties that can be able to address issues across the country, can be able to go to any region and be able to reflect what the ideas are, or whatever it is these people desire to be attended to is contained or reflected in the man. But that does not happen. What we see in Kenya is politics based on individual. Who is the leader? If the leader is Raila Odinga, whether he moves from ODM and goes to UDA will be stronger to areas where people believe in Raila Odinga. It does not matter. It's not about the political party. There are no ideologies in the political party. And I think that is the tragedy, and it is something that will affect communities that will not have anchored themselves in a political party where it is individual based.
Maybe just
Michelle, jump in on that as well?
Yeah, just to weigh in on that. I usually say structurally, Kenya is an amalgamation of different ethnic groups. And I find that a blessing in the sense that we are a different people, and in one way or another, we have always managed to be more peaceful than what you would compare with other countries that have even just say two major ethnic groups and they're fighting on those kinds of issues. So it is a blessing to us that we are an ethnic group, and I would say we would be lying to ourselves if we said that it is actually possible to look at politics from a non-ethnic perspective. But another way to look at it would say it would be to look at it more strategically, and just to weigh in on what Wakili is saying, make it more issue-based than ethnic and tribe-based, and who is it, or rather, who is going to come here, speak my ethnic language, and you know, will be speaking to me how I expect to be spoken to. Because you find that over time, historically, we've always had extreme political cleavages in terms of which ethnic groups are currently being supported, and in terms of numbers, and which ethnic groups cannot pull the numbers, as you asked. So it's always been, for the longest time, say, Luo and Kikuyu, or but now other, I wouldn't call them really small, or but it is the truth, because there are larger ethnic groups and there are smaller ethnic groups. So we have seen over time that even other, what would be ideally considered as smaller ethnic groups, trying to actually fight for their space and, you know, doing the affirmative action in all of it. So with time, maybe, because it's also a very democratic state, and I think democracy has come so far. People inclusion in political spaces has come so far. I mean, we are not where we are supposed to be, but we are not where we were, say, 3 years ago. Okay. So people are more exposed. People get to know more with time. And I have faith, I have hope that we might also, despite the fact that politics at the end of the day usually ends up to be very personal and very emotive, that towards the end of, say, let's even say 2027, I trust that Kenyans will be looking at political issues very differently, and that gives me hope.
Okay, honest, to just talk very briefly on that before I move to what's happening with the change in leadership in Jubilee. When you talk about moving away from, you know, politics of tribe to politics of issues, there was the social inequality issue that came to the fore. Then it evolved to dynasties versus hustlers. Do you feel this was a legitimate conversation that was had? Was it the wrong way that it was being addressed? What is your take on that class
Personally,
issue?
I usually feel like sometimes, I usually say if you listen to a politician, always take what they say with a pinch of salt, because naturally everybody is a selfish person. So if I, for instance, listen to what you're saying and I want to translate it into how I want to translate it for it to work for me, that is exactly what I would do. But if you look at generally the intention, it might seem like maybe the intention is at a good place, but just depends on how somebody would really interpret that. So it was a genuine conversation, which if you stop looking at it from an personal perspective or a selfish perspective, if you actually look at the issue as opposed to who is addressing what issue, you'd actually be able to analyze and extract the most out of that actual conversation on terms of issues, and instead of who or what or why.
Okay. Solomon, I'll ask you the same question, because it was a key issue of concern, yet therein was a very valid point in terms of the social inequality that is there. We can't ignore it. But now it became their hustlers, and they're talking this particular language, could start a class war. But how do you talk about that issue of inequality?
Inequality, as I said last time when I was here, I said, world over, that has been there. And we cannot blame anyone for that. The forces behind that are under no one's control. What we just do, we have governments in the world that try to moderate issues, just to make sure that, you know, those who are below the poverty line are raised, and maybe those above are also get share of what they deserve. But what we don't need is to escalate this issue to take advantage, you know, of the less privileged, like what the hustlers are trying to do in this country. When you tell me that I am poor because someone else is rich, then that is wrong. You should rather be telling me that I am poor because this policy and this policy and this policy has not been introduced in the government to end poverty. For instance, what Kibaki did when he got to power about the motorbikes. Today we are having some problems, but I always tell people we would be having more problems if those 1,400,000 young people were not on our roads riding those motorbikes. He relieved them of the custom duties. A motorbike that was going up at about 200,000 could now be bought at about 80 and 100,000. And that is how we ended up with 1.4. Such are the strategic measures that we need in our country that can affect and take care of a wide range or a bigger number of young people in this country. Not giving them small machines, one-wheeled.
Okay, but
how
Solomon,
many can you give to 27 million of us?
I
How
get
many?
you, Solomon, but even as we say that, and we say that no one is responsible for this particular
And
issue,
I'll give you an example.
I want to push back on that because the reports that are there that we usually don't want to talk about the brushed and the carpet when you talk about the Ndongo Land report, the Kriegler Commission report, that speak to the issues that have brought this social injustice, and therein are the solutions, but we don't go there.
I would say I'm not privy to some of the information in those reports, so I may not be able to comment from an informed point of view.
Right.
I'm not privy to some of the reports. But what I would say, we must have leaders who are ready to take charge. If you elected someone to be the president of the Republic of Kenya, he has no point becoming a philanthropist, giving you some tokens here and there. They have to really solve your issues. And I would say I'm glad with what the president did this week at Kasarani. And that's what I need to see in that ministry of Joe Mucheru happening oftenly. He supported about 750 businesses owned by young people in this country. About 500 of them got 900,000 each. And about 250 got 3.6 million each from a government kitty. We need to see that number going up. We don't just say that we give youth fund and some 50,000 and all that. We need next time to have 3,000, 4,000 getting capital, being enabled by their government. Their innovations being funded. That is what we need.
Okay.
And doing it in a business setup is good because one person can employ up to 10 people. And that is how we are going to get rid of this poverty amongst young people. About land and all those other issues, I may not be able to comment from a very informed point of view.
Okay, fair enough. Let us move to the tail end of this particular conversation. We have 10 minutes or so to go. I want us to talk about the ruling party, Jubilee. Dennis, you said that this particular party is on its deathbed, if not dead already. But as you can see, quite an efficient structure in terms of how they deal with errant members within the party at this particular point in time. Do you think it goes the distance past 2022?
Jubilee is handling its challenges. It has many errant members, and it's trying to bring them into account and punish them. It has a right to do so. I mean, really, the internal structures allow anybody who is errant to be punished. It's a good thing. But you look at it, why are these people falling out? Because Jubilee was a party, not a coalition. And I think the largest party we had, I think, sharing the almost similar strength or even stronger than ODM. But ODM has not had such strong fallout when you compare it with Jubilee as it is. The reason why this fallout is there is because of the strong divergent opinions and some people taking charge and making others feel like they don't belong. It's not a house for everyone. If it continues like that, whoever they punish, because you are fallen out in terms of ideology, you are pushed out of the party, then by the time we go to 2022, there won't be any Jubilee. In fact, even if it is there, it's a name. We have many political parties in the past, and some of which have not been dissolved, but they are really a shell. There's nothing in it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there is no ideology that remains in Jubilee, just like another political party in Kenya. They are personality-based. So if Jubilee was Jubilee because of the top leaders, and the top leaders exit, they get pushed. And the support leaders who are there, who are national, they are also pushed and leave the Jubilee as a party. Then you don't have a party. That is why I said even ODM. If today Raila Odinga was to leave ODM, ODM won't be the same. Yes. Look at the history of Raila Odinga, LDP, NARC, whenever he exited, whichever party he went to, it became stronger than the one he had left. It remained a shell. Why? Because none of the political parties in Kenya are ideology based. Even Jubilee is not ideology based. So if you are pushing out, if this party is a party and is a strong party because of the personality and the people are in it, and you chase them out of the party, then there's a problem. And just allow me, Jeff, to weigh in slightly in what my brother Kuria has just mentioned on the inequality issues. You see, we have fundamentally a problem in terms of policy. Youths will never get a solution if we are dealing with handouts across the board. And I don't want to be hard on individual donations. In fact, if anybody wants to give whatever it is as a donation to a youth, and the youth picks that donation, if you think it will help you, that is for you. Just pick it and move on. And we should be able to applaud such individuals who are willing to go an extra mile and even spend 10 shillings on another person as a donation. That is fine. But I have a problem when the government is doing the same thing. There is no difference between the wheelbarrow movement, which even if people look at it strictly as an economic concept, which I think it's not, it's more political than economic, as an economic concept, and the government slasher movement, where they're giving youths slashes and telling them, go to the, start slashing on the roads and you'll be given 200 or 300 shillings every day. It's the same thing. You will be given a slasher for you to earn some 10 shillings. I think we should have radically an examination of the policies that surrounds the youth. And the youth, they cut across quite a wide range of issues. We have youths who have gone, who are educated up to university levels. We have youths who have trained in TVET and other things. We have youths who have not had the benefit of going through formal education. The policy framework for each of them should be different so that then we are able to bring on board as many as, of these youths as possible and take into account their reality and the economic situation. Okay. That has not happened. There is no single policy that really addresses them. We talk about youths when we are going for elections, when we want to see how to impress them. And when youths are told you'll be given loans, for instance, government is giving you loans, but under what environment are you working in? You are in the same country where taxation is at the peak. You will not do anything with that money. In fact, if you try, you are not able to pay back that loan. It's not a grant you have been given for you to run yourself and finance it. It's a loan which you are going to refund.
Fair enough.
You find a challenge.
Okay, Dennis, I hear on that. Let me get to the one Jubilee member in the room, and he's also the chair of the Jubilee Youth League.
Yes.
What's the state of affairs at Apangani right now in terms of what we've seen as of yesterday? A very effective and a very efficient moving National Management Committee. Now Joshua Kutuni as Deputy SG. But some analysts are saying that you're calling out some of the best politicians and members of the party and putting some who don't quite fit those shoes.
I would say Chama Kiko Imara, just like Kano used to say. Chama Tawala Kiko Imara. And I must say, with all honesty, that this is what we need in the political parties. You know, Wakili cannot become a master of doublespeak by one time saying that we should have ideologies in the party, and in the next, we should not punish people who go against the ideologies. What would you say about Irongo Kangata, for instance, the Murang'a senator? He knows it is the idea of the party. The party supports the idea of the Building Bridges initiative. Goes out there, comes back with a fake research, leaks a letter to the media, even without speaking to the right organs of the party, and finally it turns out that, oh, the region is actually so much behind the Building Bridges initiative. So what was the party supposed to do? Kositani is on record with other members of Tanga Tanga, declaring support and allegiance to UDA, another political party. Would he still continue serving as the Deputy Secretary General? Like the late Kajwang said, loyalty, fidelity, faithfulness will be number one consideration in a political party. And about it being about some powerful individuals, I want to jog your memory just a little bit and take you to South Africa. We had Jacob Zuma, who went against the ideology of the party and was accused of corruption. It did not take the citizens of South Africa to go to an election and have him removed out of office. But powerful individuals in ANC removed him and, with equal measure, installed Cyril Ramaphosa. The only difference between South African Party and Jubilee today is that the powerful guys, the powerful individuals in ANC are not presidents. But the powerful individual in Jubilee today is a president. But it's the same thing. We must always have people who make decisions, because we cannot say that now we want to get rid of Kositani. We go back to Mwananchi. We must have people who make such decisions. And it is right, it is okay to have powerful individuals in the party. Whether we subscribe to the ideologies of the powerful individuals or the party is a matter of the delegates. It's a matter of those people who belong to those parties. Are you getting me? Mm-hmm. So what Jubilee Party is doing is very correct. And let me say this. Those people who are saying that Jubilee Party is dead, actually they are very misinformed. I want to remind them that Jubilee Party is the only party in this country that at least has some color in every region in this country. You go to Coast, Jubilee will have a member of parliament. You go to Migori, Jubilee has several. You go to Kakamega, Jubilee has members of parliament.
Let me get to Michelle, because
all
she's
over.
laughing as
This
you
is
say
a
that.
national party, and we are ready to defend the party, and it's not closing up. Let me say we are past that issue of having briefcase parties that, you know, you open them and then close at wish. Jubilee is there to stay.
Michelle, do you feel as optimistic, even just from an objective point of view, do you think the party goes beyond 2022?
I was laughing because he started by expressly stating that the reason why Jubilee is not participating in Matungu is because it's a Western region thing. And then right now...
No. I said about contest.
Yeah.
To avoid highly contested
and then now
politics.
He's saying
as at
Jubilee
now.
is a national party, and you know, I mean, he's being a master of double speak.
No.
After attacking Wakili for being a master of double speak as well. But anyway, what I would think about Jubilee Party, I'm not privy to what happens at Jubilee Party. It's not my party of interest, to be sincerely honest. But what I would say from a non-partisan perspective and with pure intention really, it made me think about a lot about how partnerships usually work. Say for instance, Jeff, you and I want to start a partnership. We cannot be that me and you both are brains of the partnership and expect it to work. It's about what you bring to the table, what I bring to the table, how we can amalgamate the two of them and make the most out of the partnership. So yesterday I was thinking to myself, what if maybe Jubilee is falling apart because the partnership is actually disintegrating thoroughly. So maybe there was the person who was the brains, and then there was the person who was the muscle. Mm-hmm. So the brains and the muscle are no longer together. So that's why you see the confusion. Mm-hmm. So that's why you see the challenges that are clearly evident. It doesn't even take a smart person to notice that things are really... and then you will also wonder, in as much as we've come so far democratically as Kenya since, let's say, 1963 or whenever, freedom of expression, freedom of the Bill of Rights and all of that. And then you see how the party, Jubilee, handles members of the party who are not in line with the ideologies or the beliefs of the party. It makes you wonder, if, say, for instance, we continue to proceed this way, how long will it take or how far will it go before you actually realize this is not what I want? I don't think this is what I subscribe to. So it makes you question a lot of things. If you remove yourself out of it, stand from a perspective of a person on the outside looking on the inside and just questioning it with good intention, it makes you question a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, because then again I said I'm not privy to what happens there really. But questioning it as a non-partisan, non-biased person, I would really question if that is what I would like to subscribe to moving forward. especially considering it is a national party.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's how we'll draw the curtains on this particular conversation. As Solomon says, because he's privy to what's going on within the party, says it's still strong.
Chama
The
kiko
best
imara.
test of that will be time. We shall see when we have this conversation probably a year from now, if indeed those words will ring true. But as always, thank you so much for making time. Solomon Kuria, Chair, Jubilee Youth League, thank you so much for making your time this morning. Michelle Adwoch, thank you so much for coming through, governance expert, and an advocate of the High Court, Dennis Anyoka, thank you so much for your time as well. Wrap up this particular segment at that point. Take a short break, then when we come back, we get interactive right here. Don't go too far.